Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And what an exciting show we have in store for you today. Because not only will we be covering and updating you on the Bruce Blakeman announcement that he'll be running against Elise Stefanik in the Republican primary for governor. We also have breaking stories from yesterday as well. And in the 7 o'clock hour, it's Sheriff Jim Allard. We always look forward to having him on the program, so don't miss out on that. We're going to start with a viewer comment that came in late yesterday after the program. Hello, Frank. After listening this morning, speaking about the New York City tree lighting and the intentional lack of mentioning anything to do with Christmas, it's a discussion that I've had with people in my orbit for years now. I've been fighting back in my own little way. And I know it probably seems odd to some, but when they started with the holiday trees at a local big box, for example, I would actually ask for a Christmas tree. I was not interested in purchasing a holiday tree. And of course, they looked at me like I had two heads. But just trying to make a point in my own feeble little way. And the rest of your comment I do really appreciate. I appreciate the sentiment, but yes, for political reasons, I've got to skip over it. And I know now people are wondering what it's about, but I do appreciate the comment. Do what you will, and by the way, Merry Christmas. Well, Merry Christmas to you, and thank you for the great message, and I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much. All right, so yesterday in the breaking story, Democrats have taken control of Miami for the first time in nearly 30 years. After Eileen Higgins clinched the city's mayoral election. Higgins beat out Trump-backed Republican Emilio Gonzalez in the Florida City runoff on Tuesday night. And she will become the city's first Democrat mayor since 1998, as well as the city's first ever woman mayor. She said in a statement tonight, the people of Miami made history. Now, the victory is an upset for GOP lawmakers across the country who rallied behind Gonzalez as the election became seen as a test of voter reaction to President Trump's first year. Everything seems to be a test. Everything seems to be some type of bellwether for things to come in the midterms. But Trump himself threw his weight behind Gonzalez and was joined by the likes of Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Rick Scott, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. But the Democrats' victory wasn't much of a nail-biter. Higgins had led Gonzalez 36 to 19% during the first round of voting amid a crowded field and was the favorite to win this time around. So there you go. Nevertheless, a breaking story, one that I'm sure we'll hear more about than necessary, but a Democrat wins Miami's mayoral contest for the first time since 1998. Okay, as an update and kind of in line with what that viewer's comment was discussing. This is a story I brought to you probably last week, maybe the week before. But leaders of a Catholic church near Boston have kept a nativity display up that has that anti-ICE message, defying an order from the Catholic Archdiocese of Boston to remove it. The display outside St. Susanna Parish in Dedham, Massachusetts, includes the traditional shepherds, sheep, and wise men gathered around a hay-filled manger, but Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus are missing, replaced by a sign reading, "ICE was here." And in a smaller note, it says, "The Holy Family is safe in the sanctuary of our church. If you see ICE, please call LUCE. The display includes a phone number for LUCE, an immigration advocacy group, which tracks the activity of immigration and customs enforcement agents around Massachusetts." So again, this is a story that I brought to you last week. So not necessarily an update because nothing has changed, but they have completely ignored the Catholic Archdiocese of Boston and their order to remove the sign. Now, keep in mind, as I read this, the Reverend Stephen Josoma has a history of politicizing Christmas, of making the Christmas season some type of political message in line with his beliefs. Also a bit of a showman. Speaking to reporters, He said the intent of the display was to evoke dialogue, not cause anger. He said parish leaders would confer with leaders of the archdiocese before making a final decision on its fate. But he added that some do not agree with our display does not render it sacrilegious. Many people speaking out on this. The bishop saying back in November, we are saddened by the state of contemporary debate and the vilification of immigrants. We are concerned about the conditions in detention centers and the lack of access to pastoral care. We lament that some immigrants in the United States have arbitrarily lost their legal status. That was from, what was a bishop's group specifically? U.S. Catholic bishops. Okay. Other politically themed nativity scenes have popped up around the country this Christmas season, including one at a church in Evanston, Illinois, that includes a baby Jesus figure with his hands bound by zip ties. And another nativity scene near Chicago, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus are missing, with a sign telling viewers that due to ICE activity in our community, the Holy Family is in hiding. So nothing says Christmas, after we had that story yesterday about not completely writing off your family, nothing says Christmas like politicizing it with an anti-ICE or an anti-Trump message. One observer saying how shameful to make a mockery of Christ's birth. Another countered with, you were on the wrong side of history. One woman said, I wish I lived close enough to attend this church. So an update with a non-update. Saddened to hear the politicalization of this holy time of year. And to piggyback it with these attacks on ICE, we had the members of ICE being attacked with snowballs in Chicago the other day. Well, this is a scary breaking story. A pair of New Jersey twins were arrested after they allegedly threatened Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's top assistant and pledged to, quote, shoot ICE on sight. Ricardo Antonio Roman Flores and Emilio Roman Flores were taken into custody after allegedly writing on social media that they wanted to torture and kill DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. One of the alleged tweets read, we Americans should find you, tar you, feather you, and hang you as we did to anyone serving tyrants before the Revolutionary War. Another post from the brothers, both of whom are American citizens, allegedly saw them boasting that they should use their Second Amendment right and fire on ICE officers. Police confiscated a pair of guns from Emilio, including an assault rifle, along with several boxes of ammunition. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons slammed the threats against his officers, warning that anyone who does so will face justice under the law. Let this be a warning to anyone who dares threaten or attack our brave law enforcement officers. We will find you, we will arrest you, and we will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. We are not afraid of you. Emilio has been charged with unlawful possession of an assault weapon, possession of prohibited weapons, conspiracy, terroristic threats, criminal coercion, threats, and cyber harassment. His twin was only charged with conspiracy, terroristic threats. Both brothers are currently being held by the police department. Okay. Moving along with no real segues this morning, but we have so much to cover. We don't have a lot of time this morning because we want to spend as much time as possible with Sheriff Allard in the 7 o'clock hour. But I have a lot. I have a couple things I want to bring up before we talk about Bruce Blakeman and Elise Stefanik, because there's a lot coming out of that. And I don't know if you saw Hochul's response. Her response to Stefanik's, I don't know what you would say, her comments that, Hochul is the worst governor in the country, saying that on a regular basis and talking about how unaffordable we are as a state. And Governor Hochul's response, showing you yet again to prove my point that she's not ready for prime time, that she's just not there. She doesn't have that level. She should have never been governor. Her response was essentially, we're not the least affordable. We're 45th out of 50. That's her brag. That's her boast. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the program. First, in case you missed it, Charlie Kirk's final book called Stop in the Name of God has been officially released months after the 31-year-old Turning Point USA founder was assassinated. In a message, Donald Trump Jr. wrote, a month before Charlie Kirk was taken from us, he finished his last book. Get your copy today. According to the official description, Stop in the Name of God Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life, presents the Sabbath as a radical act of resistance and offers a pathway to genuine connection, peace, and presence. It promises to help readers unplug, recharge, and reconnect with God, family, and yourself in a way that nurtures your soul. According to TPUSA spokesman Andrew Colvett, the book reflects more than a year of Kirk's dedicated work. Quote, he meditated, prayed, and researched the topic with profound curiosity. He described the project as a true labor of love from Charlie Kirk and said he believed it was Kirk's most life-changing work. He also shared an interview clip featuring Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, who spoke about the emotional weight of her husband's posthumous publication, saying, he did not just write this book, he lived it. When you feel something so deeply and you've experienced it and you've lived it, you want to be able to tell other people, look, this will change your life. She described the message as truth and noted how attuned those around him became to his spiritual rhythms during that time. Our whole team knew on days where he didn't get a full Sabbath, and did, because he just was so locked in. And he just, again, was the most incredible man, but this just took him to a whole new level. And it was in a way where you would look at him and be like, whatever you're doing, I want to do. So again, Charlie Kirk's final book, Stop in the Name of God, officially released. And I wanted to pass that along to you in case you missed the news. We've got a couple other breaking stories. I'm going to tie in Venezuela with the media. I've got to just show you a little bit of what we're dealing with. We know, we talk about a lot, but with the media, and really what I think can only be described as propaganda. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to focus a lot of time on New York State this morning, and then we'll be talking with the sheriff. On tomorrow's program, we'll be talking with former congressman and current assemblyman, also happens to be the chairman of the Steuben County GOP, Joe Sempolinski. He'll be joining us. I can't wait to get his opinion on Bruce Blakeman, because he's come out in full force with his endorsement, great endorsement of Elise Stefanik. He also said yesterday, essentially, that his support has been behind Elise Stefanik from the beginning, and it continues to be. Nothing has changed, and that Elise Stefanik is going to be governor. So we're going to be talking with Joe Sempolinski on tomorrow's broadcast. And then Friday, of course, is the Salvation Army Telethon. We'll tell you how you can donate to that ahead of time to make our lives a little easier so we can hit that goal of $12,000, which that sounds like quite a hurdle. But because of a generous donor, we're already, if we get $6,000, we're already at that $12,000, because they're going to match up to $6,000. So if there's any way I can help you make a donation, let me know. But we'll get you the website. We'll get you the number to text. Of course, we'll be playing during the whole broadcast on Friday at the bottom of the screen. We're going to have great music by the Crystal Chords. Doc Possum sent us some real good tunes this year. We're going to have some very special guests coming into the studio as well. So Friday is a must-see, frankly speaking, episode. Every day is a must-see, frankly speaking, episode, if I'm being honest. But this was just extra Christmas special. All right, let's take that break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I'm on 3 Vote for Elise Stefanik sites, and it's blowing up my phone with people voting for her and a ton of people saying no to Blakeman. Blakeman is not the most liked guy right now in GOP circles. That's pretty reasonable to say. We're going to give you some more information on him coming up a little bit later on in the program. A couple of quick stories to get to before, and there is no way to segue. First of all, the DEC is warning you as winter weather returns to the region, I'd say. They're encouraging New Yorkers to be mindful of their rock salt usage. Apparently, the DEC has a program called Don't Be Salty, New York. It's a public awareness campaign. According to the DEC, overuse of rock salt can lead to infrastructure damage, contamination to streams and water bodies, and impacts to drinking water. Reducing rock salt usage can also reportedly help consumers save money. It takes only 1 teaspoon of salt to pollute 5 gallons of water, said DEC Commissioner Amanda Lefton. We're asking all New Yorkers to take common sense precautions before using too much rock salt on their sidewalks, driveways, and other places around their homes and businesses to help prevent unknowingly harming our environment. Safety seems important too, but that did not come up. Okay, Speaker Johnson, and Israel's Speaker Amir Ohana unveiled what they're calling a first-of-its-kind global parliamentary bid to nominate President Trump for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize, declaring that, quote, no one has ever deserved that honor more, and that, quote, no person in the world has done more for peace over the past year. Meeting at the U.S. Capitol, Johnson hosted Ohana for a bilateral session in which the two speakers signed a formal letter to the Norwegian Nobel Committee and launched an effort to rally speakers and presidents of parliaments worldwide to join the nomination. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise also took part in the meeting. In a press release announcing the move, Johnson said that by restoring the American doctrine of peace through strength, President Trump made history by ending conflicts and encouraging order around the globe. No one has deserved this honor more. Ohana called the initiative a cause that is just moral and as right as any can be. Not a single person in the world who has done more for peace over the past year than President Trump, and no one more deserving of recognition for the efforts and the results that have saved the lives of so many people around the world, including in Israel. Now, I know the deadline is the end of next month, January 31st. We'll see where it goes from there. You've heard me as someone who is admittedly jaded. I don't think he gets a Nobel Peace Prize. That doesn't mean don't fight for it. That doesn't mean don't sign on to the letters. It means I just don't see a day where the far left committee votes for the Peace Prize for Donald Trump. Now, keep in mind, the deadline is January 31st. That means 11 days into Barack Obama's presidency, not second term, into his presidency, he was essentially awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. 11 days. January 20th, swearing. The 31st, by then he was nominated. So for his 11 days in office, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. So do you think that same committee and that same group is going to be forthcoming with the prize for Donald Trump? Okay. I know I got to take another break because I've got just a couple quick media updates just to kind of show you the propaganda. And then, by the way, I didn't even ask. I should have asked this question. Did you watch Trump kicking off his affordability message in Pennsylvania yesterday? He is right at home in a rally format, isn't he? It's just like I felt like I had a flashback to October, September. It felt just like it was campaign season all over again. And that's what Susie Wiles said it was going to be. He's going to campaign just as if he was on the ticket. And that's what it felt like last night. It was, as a typical rally can be, a long one. It was, we'll just say a lot of topics were covered. But he is definitely right at home in that rally setting. Oh, one quick announcement before we take our break. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I guess it was last week, and I don't want you to miss out on it because it's becoming a weekly thing for those in need this holiday season. It is the Open Table Free Weekly Dinner at the First Presbyterian Church. That's East 1st Street, Corning. Today is chicken and biscuits. Now it's eat-in only. You cannot take out. And that will be from 5:30 till 6:30 tonight. So again, chicken and biscuits at the First Presbyterian Church, 1 East 1st Street in Corning. And they also have their big, and they sent me a nice email. They have their big Christmas dinner, which has become such a tradition in our area. For people who may be alone on the holidays, it'll be offered at the First Presbyterian Church of Corning on December 25th, of course. There'll be a short Christmas sing-along at 11:30, and dinner will be served at noon. The free dinner is offered as a gift to people in the community to bring fellowship and celebration to those who would otherwise be alone on Christmas. They're asking that you make your reservations, just so they know how much they'll need, by December the 19th. And all you need to do is call the First Presbyterian Church of Corning. If you need that number, text me, or I can read it right now, but I know I didn't leave you a lot of warning. It's 607-937-5800. 5419. So 937-5419. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Venezuela and tie it in with the media, and you'll be shocked to see how. And then we are going to talk about New York State. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. We'll be right back. Our beautiful view of historic Market Street with all the lights on in the Gaffer District, getting us ready for the Christmas season. Well, we're already there, aren't we? Welcome back. Thank you to Boss Security for bringing us that view. We've got a lot to cover. All right. So the U.S. deploys fighter jets to the Gulf of Venezuela in the closest known approach yet. This is breaking from last night, according to the Associated Press. They are roughly 30 minutes over the water north of Venezuela. The U.S. defense officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, described the short mission as a routine training flight designed to demonstrate the aircraft's operational reach. The official also did not disclose whether the jets were armed, but did emphasize that the operation remained entirely within international airspace. So a lot of talk has been about Venezuela, and it's another one of these examples of where those in the media and those on the left end up finding themselves siding with these drug cartels. Well, yesterday, I try to wait to do show prep early in the morning to get all the breaking news, but I still check the news like you do. And I saw this headline, and I think this is a prime example of the media coming up with their thoughts on something and trying to find a story to get there. It shows their bias, their lack of credibility. This is by Aaron Blake at CNN. And the headline is, "It's Epstein all over again" on Trump and the boat strikes video. Let's read that again. Now, I think a lot of people could be critical of the comparison if they want to talk about the victims in the Epstein case. But anyway, let's not get to that level of it. It's Epstein all over again on Trump and the boat strikes video. If there is nothing truly damaging to President Trump in the Jeffrey Epstein files, he and his administration did a great job of making it look like there could be. How else to explain their promise of full transparency, their sudden and inexplicable U-turn, and then their ultimately unsuccessful efforts to fight Congress's push to get the files? It seems the administration didn't learn its lesson from that episode, because it looks like history could be repeating with the boat strikes video. Trump and the administration sound as though they've suddenly gotten cold feet about releasing full video of the September strikes on an alleged drug boat in the Caribbean that killed survivors. This despite Trump having said plainly less than a week ago that the administration would release them. Needless to say, I don't have to go through this. This is just a way to try to drum up the Epstein thing again while tying it in with Venezuela so they can get kind of a double whammy on it to hit Trump. It's nonsensical. It means that they are, first of all, we don't have to go and relitigate this, that if there was anything about Trump in there, it would have been released during the Biden administration or before. To destroy. I mean, you can't tell me that they lied about Russia nonstop, but they were sitting on that quote unquote golden egg. Come on. But they see, this is a prime example of them seeing an opportunity to try to bring Epstein up again, try to rehash that as a kind of a cudgel around Trump's neck. Now, I mentioned that because I'm going to give you a couple of examples of media bias before we start talking about New York State issues. On CNN's Laura Coates Live, so another example from CNN, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear was interviewed, Democrat, of course. He said that, quote, "We used to say that a president can't impact the economy that much, but now we know that isn't true because of the state of the economy now under President Trump. So it couldn't have been the 4 years of Biden. Trump needed to flip it in, what, less than a year. Well, less than a year, less than 11 months. So basically, because he doesn't like Trump, now the president can affect the economy. The takeaway would be, we used to think the president didn't do much on the economy, but now I don't because Trump's bad because of Andy Bashir. So isn't that interesting how apparently it's all changed because Trump is so bad that they dislike Trump. So that's on CNN. But yet with that kind of propaganda, Joy Reid, the former MSNBC host, is warning you that Trump may transform the United States media to North Korean-style propaganda. Reid warned of the future media environment under Trump's control. You get this one perspective that just happens to be the same perspective as the president of the United States. And now we're North Korea because where can you get an alternative view? Did I not just read two very prime examples of that not being at all the case? You want to talk about propaganda? You want to talk about North Korean propaganda style, North Korean style propaganda? How's this? The New York Times has a piece out, and I'm going to forget exactly how. It didn't print out the headline. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But Kamala not ready to be written off. Kamala Harris not ready to be written off. So I'm going, I wonder what this is about. It's a sit-down interview with the New York Times had with Kamala Harris. She was seen for 2 decades as a future face of the Democrat Party. Lie. Is she now suddenly a figure of the past? I would disagree with that. She is the one person, now granted, she was vice president. She didn't win a single vote in the primary for president because she didn't make it that far, her first go-around. She was never considered a viable candidate after Biden were to retire because the Democrat Party knew that she wasn't going to win it. That all changed, of course, when Biden dropped out and kind of forced her in there to get that kind of last, I've still got a little power move towards Obama and Nancy Pelosi and the like, because that's what he did. You guys think you're in charge. I've got one last power play, so now it's got to be Kamala Harris or you look foolish. Well, before that, they had said that she wasn't going to be the next president. So to call her a future face of the Democrat Party for 20 years is a little questionable. But the one thing that Kamala Harris absolutely, definitely, most certainly does not want to talk about is whether she is thinking and running for president again. She said it's 3 years from now. I mean, honestly. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Miss Harris is busy selling books, a lot of them. She is not yet selling herself. Old advisors, both allied and estranged, have squinted from afar at her book tour, wondering what exactly her strategy is, or if there is any at all. She has done little to distance herself from former President Joe Biden, besides admitting aloud that it was reckless on her part not to have discouraged him from running again. Defeat hit Miss Harris deeply. She had not felt such grief since the death of her mother, she had said, a line that sears even as she repeats it so often as to become a talking point. She spent the early months of 2025 cooking and cocooning away from the cameras. But it's been a year since her loss to President Trump, the traditional period of mourning. Friends and allies swear she's more relaxed now. She is certainly more relaxed about swearing. And then they go through some, I guess she swears a lot now. Yeah, because she's plain spokenness. That's what they refer it to. But that seems to be a thing on the far left. No, I'm not going to read this whole thing. But this is Kamala Harris unleashed. But it is still Kamala Harris. The profanity, a proxy for plain spokenness. She is the first woman to serve as vice president and well attuned to the double standards of gender and race. Lawyerly language remains her safe space, and she still defaults to acting as if every question is part of a deposition where answers can and will be used against her. Do you see what the New York Times did there? They tried to suggest that her word salads that became so famous during the campaign was just lawyerly language that she felt like she was a part of a deposition where everything could be used against her. Well, you know what was used against her? The word salad. I don't know why I'm reading as much of this as I am, but a lot of people are saying that she's a great campaigner for others, that she will help others in their race, maybe potentially have a race themselves. This is like 10 pages. I don't want to go. There's a couple of words I saw in here earlier that I wanted to, but one of the takeaways from it is just, again, propaganda. She is looking forward to a marble bust of herself being put on display in the U.S. Capitol, brushing off concerns about 2028 to instead focus on her historic figure status. Okay. I understand the focus on 28 and all that, but there will be a marble bust of me in Congress. I'm a historic figure like any vice president of the United States ever was. Now, the U.S. Senate maintains a collection of vice presidential busts, with the chamber's rule stating that the marble busts of those who have been vice president of the United States shall be placed in the Senate wing of the Capitol from time to time, and that the architect of the Capitol is authorized, subject to the advice and approval of the Senate Committee on Rules and Administration, to carry into execution the object of this resolution. Okay. The bust of former Vice President Joe Biden, Mike Pence, and Harris are still in progress, with the bust of Vice President J.D. Vance to be commissioned when he exits office. Instead of attempting to take the helm of the leaderless Democrat Party, Harris has been on tour promoting her book. Thousands of people are coming to hear my voice. Thousands and thousands, she told the Times. Every place we've gone has been sold out. So the New York Times writing that glowing piece on Kamala Harris. Could it be another 2028 run? By the way, Josh Shapiro stands by his claim that Kamala Harris tried to cover her you-know-what with her criticism of him. In her book, she tried to essentially criticize Josh Shapiro that she didn't pick him because he was some type of almost diva. During an interview, he says he said, look, I stand by what I said. I think the way in which the author described my emotion, frankly, was not accurate, but the words are mine and I stand by them. Enough on that. I know, enough on that. But that is propaganda in a nutshell. You can find that full piece for yourself at the New York Times if you would like. We got to take a short break. Did you watch Trump's speech? We've got 3 quick updates on that, and then we've got to talk about New York State. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. If you watched yesterday's, and welcome back. We're here, of course, in the Hesselson studio, proudly as always. Trump did kick off his, all you can say is a rally yesterday, touting his affordability message. It was a great rally. We can talk about that if you would like. But I know with the sheriff coming in, we have to talk about New York State. So if you want to weigh in on the rally yesterday in Pennsylvania, please feel free. But let's kick it into high gear and talk about New York State issues. And then you can change my mind for me if you want to talk about the rally. Though yesterday, not at the rally, Trump did tell reporters this may help some of you financially. He says he will think about eliminating tax on gambling debts. This may help a lot of you. We have no tax on tips. We have no tax on Social Security, and we have no tax on overtime. No tax on gambling winnings. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that. Some of you may be already jumping for joy. Okay, so yesterday it came out, and we talked about Bruce Blakeman. And I can't figure it out, and I'm so excited to talk to Joe Semplinsky about it tomorrow on the program. I can't figure out why Bruce Blakeman is entering this race. It's just going to cost everybody money. It makes me very upset, and I'm going to have to warn Joe, because it is one of those things, the more I think about it, the more it gets my blood boiling, because this is, to Elise Stefanik's spokesperson's point, this is one of the best chances in generations for a Republican to win governor. Now, that's not saying she's a lock, but it's still one of our best chances in decades. So, this guy out of Long Island, I don't know if it's some kind of ego thing about Long Island, or just about him personally, decides that he's going to jump in the race to kind of muddy up the water. Now, some have even speculated in the media and on Twitter and places like that, is this some type of way to prop up Governor Hochul? Is this some type of way to, again, secure a defeat for Republicans? I mean, that's the kind of Republican maybe he is. Because keep in mind, this is the kind of guy that wins Nassau County Executive and says, please trust me with your vote. Trust me with your money, your fundraising money. Trust me with your support, knocking on doors. And then he wins it and says, oh, great, now that I have the job, I don't want it. I want to be governor. But guess what? If I lose the race for governor, I'll just go back to the county executive seat. So it's win-win for him. So we did learn yesterday, and if you're not paying attention, sadly, these kind of things blow by because the media and Governor Hochul love the fact that Blakeman got in the race. The big winner in Blakeman entering the race, the big winner is Governor Hochul. The media now has an opportunity to focus on him and his fight with Stefanik and not have to highlight the disaster that is the governor's mansion. Well, we learned a little bit about Bruce Blakeman yesterday. A piece by Nick Allen. A Republican did enter yesterday the governor's race. Bruce Blakeman entered yesterday. Well, on Monday afternoon, President Trump said he wouldn't endorse either of them yet. Well, campaign finance records show Bruce Blakeman's consulting firm, Madison Strategies, donated $2,500 to Democrat Eliot Spitzer's successful campaign for governor in August of 2006. 2 months later, it donated only $400 to Spitzer's Republican opponent, John Faso. The following year, there was a donation of, get this, $1,000 to Anthony Weiner for mayor. Now, if you recall, Weiner did not end up running for mayor. And it should be noted that both Spitzer and Weiner were later disgraced in sex scandals. Blakeman's consulting firm also made numerous donations to Republican political candidates and committees over the year, but the donation to Democrats are expected to spark a reaction from die-hard Republicans. I don't want to go through his whole why he thinks he's going to run. I mean, he's talking about that he won big in Long Island. Okay. There's more to this. The Stefanik, I don't want to go through it's kind of the back and forth, the history of Spitzer and Anthony Weiner. We don't need to rehash that. That is absolutely for sure. But people can still not. Here's a comment from a viewer. Get Blakeman on your show and ask him what he is thinking. I don't know. We haven't been the friendliest talking about him. That may not come to fruition. And also, I think there's a point to be had because Elise Stefanik has 58 of the 62 county chairs, Republican county chairs. I think there's a case to be made that he is a non-entity if she wants to make that case. So to give him the coverage, I'm not sure, but I would. I'd ask him what he was thinking. But Elise Stefanik, let's talk about her for a moment. Governor Kathy Hochul once again stepped in it this week. And this is a regular refrain for her. How many times do we have some outlandish comment or statement that she made, or just so awkward she's just not there? And I don't even know how to put it into like succinct terms. All I can ever say, and you've heard me say it a million times, is she was only ever supposed to be lieutenant governor. And Cuomo picked her because she didn't have the chops to be governor. You don't want someone nipping at your heels if you're governor. She doesn't have it. We saw that in the Democratic National Convention. We've seen that in numerous. We could go through some of her gaffes and her statements. And now, get this. She gave a baffling response to Elise Stefanik's attack. Elise Stefanik said New York is the most unaffordable state in the nation. That was her attack on Governor Hochul. The governor's campaign pointed to a U.S. News and World Report ranking that showed New York is the 45th most affordable state in the nation, not the least. Kathy Hochul's biggest accomplishment, this is what Stefanik said, Kathy Hochul's biggest accomplishment is earning the title of worst governor in America who has made New York the most unaffordable state in the nation with the highest taxes, energy, and utility prices. The Democrat incumbent's camp bizarrely attempted to refute the claim by pointing Politico to the lists that rank New York effectively the 6th least affordable state in the nation. Quote, as usual, Elise Stefanik is full of blank. What is it with all the cussing? Why does everybody on the left feel that that's the winning strategy? This time to cover up her deciding vote for Trump's cost-raising agenda, her votes to cut police funding, and her greenlighting Trump's expensive tariffs that are squeezing small businesses and making everything cost more for hardworking New Yorkers. Hochul asked an unrelated asked at an unrelated press conference to name her proudest accomplishment as governor. She touted her administration's work in improving the economy and bringing down crime rates after the pandemic. I think the whole system of trying to stabilize the state in the aftermath of the pandemic and declare success now, I'm really proud of that. As part of its analysis, U.S. News and World Report broke down affordability into several subcategories, most of which the Empire State also lagged behind. New York was ranked 49th in opportunity, 34th in infrastructure, and toward the middle of the pack at 24th in crime and corrections. But the state landed in the top 10 on fiscal stability, natural environment, and health care. So we're going to get to more on this, but so we're the 45th state on affordability, and she was bragging about that. We're going to tell you a little bit more about that. Yeah, it's a comment from a viewer. Mom Donnie ran on affordability in New York and won. I think there was a lot of moving pieces on that. I know that, and I don't disagree with you. I know that's what the media is trying to latch onto and say that all Democrats should be running on affordability. And I don't disagree with that. I think all candidates should be running on affordability. I think it's very misleading when you're not talking about the fact of how high inflation is because of the Biden administration and the outrageous spending for 4 years. But I also think there's more to Mom Donnie than this, just that. You had the perfect storm with Cuomo in there and Sliwa and the whole thing. But yes, I think he ran on affordability in New York. He did run on that, and I think he won. I don't know if those are I don't know if that is the main reason. Could be. I mean, I know he promised to give away everything to everybody, so maybe that's in the guise of, if that's affordability, okay. But again, I'm not disagreeing with the viewer. I agree with you. I just think there's a lot of other moving pieces why he won. But we got to take a break because I am running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Uh-oh. We got some fire trucks going by here. So mind the noise in the background. All right. So as we mentioned, asked to name her biggest achievement since taking office, Hochul offered up an incredible reply. And then her staff made it worse by answering the inevitable criticism by bragging about how New York ranks as the 45th state on affordability. We're number 45th. Then again, Hochul's minions are trying to cover for the governor's own clueless horn tooting, as she told Politico of her pride in stimulating the economy after the pandemic, when New York under Hochul lagged the nation first in ending COVID restrictions and then in recovering the jobs lost when the lockdowns hit. Coming from the New York Post, where she claimed the foundation of it all was reducing crime. When governors bear little responsibility for local crime fighting, and it took her years to wrestle even the smallest crime-cutting concessions from the legislature. Politico's reporters dutifully, yeah, that was close, ran to Representative Stefanik, the governor's likely opponent next fall, for comment. She slammed the governor for making New York the most unaffordable state in the nation with the highest taxes, energy, and utility prices. Ouch. It stings because so much of it is clearly true. Even more laughable was the was the reply from the governor's campaign team citing that we are 45th on affordability, not 50th. 50th would be the worst. But no, we're doing great. We're 45th. That is what Hochul's campaign is bragging about. They also whine that most of New England has higher electricity costs, not mentioning that New York's refusal to allow a natural gas pipeline to reach those states from Pennsylvania is a big reason why, as do remote Alaska and Hawaii and Gavin Newsom's ultra-green California. Never mind that a Cornell University poll this summer found that about 80% of New Yorkers said their biggest financial threat is the cost of living in New York. And of course, Hochul's done her own damage to affordability, not least with her congestion tolls, and she's already teeing up another tax hike to win points with Mom Donnie fans and his socialist acolytes. Hochul has been a weak leader from the start, hopelessly risk-averse in ending lockdown mandates, pathetically slow to admit the toxic impact of the state's criminal justice reforms, beyond cowardly in facing the destructive impact of the Cuomo climate policies, and her campaign team reflects that lameness. We're number 45, they triumph. God help New York. On that note, on one other topic, kind of two other topics on Hochul. Stay with us. Get ready to wrap up hour number 1. Where did it all go? Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. It is hard to believe, but hour number 1 is through. A comment from Mark. I think Hochul's biggest achievement is Frankie Focus. It made her look just as stupid as Frankie. Frankie Focus was the mascot. We haven't heard a lot from Frankie Focus lately, have we? That was the mascot to help kids stay off their phones, because remember that there's a phone ban in schools, and it was somehow geared towards the age that is the least focused on phones in the schools. That's what got really confusing, because no teenager in high school is going to look at Frankie Focus and thank him for inspiring them to put down the cell phone. Just a weird. I agree with you. I think that is her biggest achievement, Mark. I would agree. We've got a couple other things about Kathy Hochul real quick at the top of the hour, and then we expect Sheriff Jim Allard to be in no time. A little housekeeping for a moment, if you don't mind. I am going to put up the website. That is the QR code for Friday's telethon. You can donate now. We've been raising now for a couple of weeks, almost a month probably, for the Salvation Army telethon. We've got a very generous donor who is going to match up to $6,000. So please, if you give $10, if you give $5, I know historically we haven't done a lot on when it comes to the website or the text messages. Even our last 2 telethons was more about in person. That's fine too. If you want to contact me about how you can make a donation, or if you happen to be walking by Market Street, stop off. We've received a lot of money lately, a lot of great checks. I'm hoping we can get that $6,000, because if we can raise $6,000 during the telethon, that means we've really raised $12,000 for the Salvation Army of Corning, and I can't tell you how much that will mean to them. Their ultimate goal for the year is $60,000, and let me tell you, it is a struggle with the kettles. Now, yesterday I did stop over and see Phil Palmisano as he was ringing the bell. Yesterday was the Republicans' turn. Monday was the Democrats. I went over and saw Mayor Boland and Mayor-elect Pam Walker on Monday. So it's been going good, but the fact of the matter is that the kettles are a struggle now, because people just don't keep a lot of cash on them. Now, luckily, the one in Centerway has had the tip tap. I think it's what it's called, tip tap, which you just touch your credit card to it or your debit card, and it'll take out, I think that's 5, 10, 20, something like that. You don't need to know that whole story. I don't know why I brought that up. But Friday is the telethon. So please help us reach that goal. We'll have a kind of a count of it, because they've got to count what's in this kettle and some other checks that came in and things like that. We'll have a count for you as soon as possible. But anything that we can raise is still a huge help. But we really want to reach that $12,000 goal. So that means we have to, on the telethon, raise not just the telethon, but the lead up to the telethon, the day of the telethon, $6,000. And let me tell you, to celebrate and attempt to get that money, you're going to want to make donations just for the great music we're going to have on Friday and the great guests. We got great music from the Crystal Chords, from Doc Possum. We're going to have a special guest, Phil Palmisano, is going to join us. We're going to talk with Mayor Bill Boland, as he is just really a few days shy of ending his administration as he is retiring. So we'll be talking with him, some other guests. You'll get a chance to meet the new captains who just came to town. Talk about right into the frying pan, came to town just a couple months ago. So you get an opportunity to meet them as well. So please, I'm asking you to donate. I don't care if it's $1 or if it's $100. It all means a lot for the Salvation Army of Corning. All right, don't forget, tomorrow on the program, we'll be talking with Joe Sempolinski, but coming up in the next hour, Sheriff Jim Allard. So stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, moments away. And welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. We were talking about Governor Hochul and her campaign bragging after Elise Stefanik said we're the most unaffordable state in the nation. Stefanik's people, I guess you would say, fired back and said, no, we're not. We're the 45th out of 50. Not 50 out of 50. Well, this viewer has a good comment on it. Hochul thinks 45 is good because she thinks a higher number is better. Could it be she doesn't understand the system? It's stupid enough to be true. Could be her campaign. I mean, maybe she doesn't either. But her campaign might have sent it out thinking they had Stefanik, and it's embarrassing. But it's one of those things that'll get glanced over and it'll be kind of buried, much like that statement by the alleged Chinese agent that worked for Hochul, calling Hochul more obedient. Remember, we brought that story to you last week or the week before. You don't see the coverage of that like it should be. She was deemed by this alleged Chinese agent as more obedient to her than to Cuomo, than Cuomo was to her. Well, Michael Goodwin has a good point on this, and he said politicians have been described in many unsavory ways. But one very unsavory way is obedient. That is how a former top aide using the word to describe how easy it was to get Governor Hochul to do her bidding. The image is chilling, as if the governor can be put under the sway of a puppeteer and follows orders. The circumstances are even more disturbing, given that the former state aide who described Hochul as obedient was allegedly working as a secret agent for Communist China. The former aide, Linda Sun, is facing federal charges in Brooklyn. We actually learned yesterday when they showed pictures of some of the things that she had. Her phone case was bedazzled with the term, "get rich, good luck." The prosecutor saying Linda Sun was all about the money. But I continue back with this piece by Michael Goodwin. The incident in question, according to trial evidence, occurred in 2021 when Andrew Cuomo was governor and Hochul was lieutenant governor. Secretly directed by her handlers in the Chinese consulate in Manhattan to get Cuomo to make a Lunar New Year video, Sun responded in writing that Hochul would be easier to get because she is much more obedient than the governor. The deputy governor listens to me more than the governor does, Sun said in a text which included a smiley face emoji. Hochul did as instructed. I don't know if you've seen that video. It has since been unearthed. And the pandering video is cringe-inducing. But the incident has resonance far beyond the video. When she became governor, Hochul promoted Linda Sun to deputy chief of staff with a salary of about $145,000. The Chinese consulate's propaganda campaign also included efforts to meddle in city and state elections. A New York Times investigation found that several successful efforts involved supposedly charitable Chinese associations that were openly violating state tax laws by engaging in politics. Some were handing out cash to Chinese journalists at mayoral campaign events this year. The Times said a spokesman for the state's tax agency claimed it did not have enough resources to look for violations by charitable associations. And Hochul said nothing about the tax issue or China's meddling in New York elections. Her silence fits a persistent image of her as someone who lacks firm convictions. We've seen that time and time again, and is eager to cede decisions, large and small, to others. The pattern suggests she does not have the confidence and independent mindset crucial to be an effective leader. As New Yorkers have seen repeatedly during her rocky tenure as governor, which began when Cuomo resigned in August of 2021, Hochul is often passive in the face of major issues. Even a partial list of examples is chilling. Consider the events of 2022 during her first campaign for the first job. Although crime was a major problem around the state and a prime focus for Lee Zeldin, the challenger, Hochul rarely said a word about it as New Yorkers were being robbed, assaulted, and murdered. Despite the huge Democratic voter advantage in the state, her silence almost handed the race to Zeldin. Still, the results were close enough that Republicans flipped 4 New York House seats from blue to red, which helped give the GOP the majority for the final 2 years of Joe Biden's term. Outgoing Democrat leader Nancy Pelosi was furious at Hochul and blasted her campaign as out of touch with reality for trying to ignore the crime issue. Remember that? That's not reported on much, but yeah, Nancy Pelosi. And yeah, Hochul believes she is a kingmaker, a power broker in New York. But it turns out Hochul was just being obedient, to use that term again, to her campaign manager. Even though, and we reported on this on the time, that her campaign manager lived 1,700 miles away in Colorado and knew little about New York. His name was Adam Sullivan, and he thought abortion was a better issue for her to run on than crime. And Hochul obeyed. Sullivan was paid $500,000 by Hochul and was eventually forced to resign over his alleged mistreatment of others on the campaign staff, especially young women. Hochul, echoing Sergeant Schultz, said she had known nothing about the numerous complaints. Despite her election victory, the far-left dominated legislature was not impressed. Her pick for New York chief judge, a moderate jurist named Hector LaSalle, was defeated, marking the first time legislators rejected a governor's choice for the job. A month earlier, Hochul acted like an amateur by granting the same legislature a pay raise without demanding support for LaSalle. Another example of her habit of obedience came during the 2024 campaign. She supported New York's congestion pricing push, saying it was vital for public transportation, but just 3 weeks before the scheduled June implementation, she declared an indefinite pause. Her inane statement cited no concrete reason, instead going on and on about how I've come to the difficult decision that implementing the planned congestion pricing system risks too many unintended consequences. Later, it became clear that the most important risk was purely partisan. The Dems House leader, Hakeem Jeffries, had privately warned her that the tax on motorists entering Manhattan was so unpopular in the suburbs that several Democrat members could lose their seats because of it. Perhaps, chastened by Pelosi, Hochul obeyed Jeffries and instantly halted the program without giving a new date. Suddenly, after the election, she implemented the congestion tax. The sad thing is that the people of New York City remember. Instead of learning a lesson, Hochul's habit of deference, is increasing in frequency. Her newest is the most dangerous of all, Zohran Mamdani. She's already caved in several times to the socialist who will be the next mayor. Even before he takes office, the 34-year-old radical has reversed the usual relationship between mayors and governors of the same party. Usually the governor dominates, but Hochul has ceded her own agenda to Mamdani. Last June, gearing up for her own re-election campaign next year, she rejected his plan to raise taxes on high-income residents and large corporations, saying, I'm not raising taxes at a time when affordability is the big issue, before adding, I don't want to lose any more people to Palm Beach. We've lost enough. Her point was the right one, but as soon as Mamdani won the general election, she reversed course. No sooner had the votes been counted than reports surfaced that she was warming to his idea of raising corporate taxes. Politico called it a significant shift for a leader whose career has been defined by adapting to fast-moving political realities. Adapting is a generous way of saying she is a follower rather than a leader. There's also another example of how Mamdani is the engine while she is the caboose. Although Hochul is ostensibly the state's chief executive, including over law enforcement, she said Monday she won't object to Mamdani's inflammatory video showing how illegal migrants in the city can stand up to federal immigration authorities. She said, I have no problem with the mayor-elect using this platform to let people know the rights they have in this great country. So there you have it. Mamdani, an anti-Semite, cop hater, and open border advocate, is now calling the shots for both the city and the state. Heck of a job, Governor. I thought that was a great piece by Michael Goodwin, and that comes off the heels of her bragging, just to show you how she is not prepared for this job. Hochul bragging that, no, we're not the least affordable state in the nation. We're 45th, not 50th. We're 45th. As I mentioned, the accused secret Chinese agent, Linda Sun, worked for the New York governors, both Cuomo and Hochul. She toted get rich, good luck phone cases. She had some really, there's some pictures here. She repeatedly bragged about taking actions favorable to China during her decade-plus stint in the state capitol. We know that she said that, as I said, Hochul is obedient. There you go. We got to take a break. Stay with us. That's our New York State updates. What do you think? And we can talk more about Blakeman if you want. I just got to be careful about what I say. I don't want to sound like Kamala Harris or Kathy Hochul's campaign. Want to watch our language here. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. I clicked the button kind of early, didn't I? Ken writes in, Hochul obediently endorsed Mom Donnie. She thinks that who thinks that she won't obediently raise all taxes to be compliant when her handlers tell her to. If I remember correctly, one of your viewers has consistently said the Hochul was a Democrat's puppet. You did, Ken. When I saw Puppet used in that piece by Michael Goodwin, I thought of you, as a matter of fact. So, yes, spot on. All right. We've got the sheriff coming in, so we're going to take a short break. We'll get prepared for Sheriff Allard in just moments. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we have Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. It's a beautiful day in Steuben County.
It always is. It's been a while. Yeah. I apologize. You know, Thanksgiving.
You missed a month, man.
I know. I didn't make the newsletter. I was heartbroken. I was so heartbroken, and that was me saying I did wrong there. But Thanksgiving always screws me up in November. That
wipes a week out.
Yeah, so I apologize. But last time we spoke, it was right before Veterans Day, I think it was. Or I knew that you were switching over the records management system, and there was, it was interesting to see how it was going to go. How'd it go?
It went very, very well.
Oh, good.
We did that on Veterans Day.
Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah.
And anytime you switch over, there's a bump or bruise here, but they were relatively minor. We were able to get them smoothed out. We're still fine-tuning stuff and relabeling things, but all in all, it went well. And in the last Public Safety and Corrections Committee, I commended the undersheriff and Lieutenant Logston and Lieutenant Kennedy because that was their project.
Yeah.
And they spearheaded it, and they did a phenomenal job. And because not only were they collaborating with all the chiefs and OICs in the county, but also with different county agencies, the informational technology, 911, and the vendor, which is
a lot of hands in the pot.
It is. And they did such a professional job. I can't say enough good words about the work they did, and even I have yet learned to use it. So
oh yeah,
I'm in it, and I like it. I like the way it works. I like the flow. And
it hasn't even been a month of it.
Yeah. And people are already getting used to it.
No complaints.
Oh, there's always.
I know.
There's always.
Somebody do something new.
9 times out of 10, it's operator error.
Yeah. No, I get, because that's a stressful thing to kind of change up everything, and then here it is a month later that it's going that smooth. It's pretty commendable.
Well, they did a really good job. They devised their own training for it, end user training. The 2 lieutenants did, and everybody went through it, all members of the agency. Wow. And a lot of outside agencies went through it, and they did a very good job in putting that together and making it so that it made sense for the user.
So we have a lot to catch up on, actually, when I'm looking at my list here, because so much has happened. But obviously, just last week when we promoted the heck out of it was the Toys for Tots Coats for Kids. How'd it go?
It went really well. In 2 hours, we received 355 toys.
Wow.
103 coats for kids.
That's wonderful.
And last year, I think it was 80 coats.
Well, this year it was so cold. It was,
it
was a stark reminder.
Yeah, you need coats.
Yeah.
And we had more toys than last year. Your mom came and dropped one off.
She said hi. That's great.
Yeah.
How long have you been doing this? This has been...
Oh, gosh. I was looking back through the photos, and I think it was 18 when we started.
Okay.
Toys for Tots when we teamed up with them.
Well, it's such a great idea, and people are already out, most likely, Christmas shopping.
They are.
That's why you hit them up at Walmart.
And, selfishly, I get a lot of fun out of it because I see people, especially at Irwin, I see people that I've known for years and years and years and years that come up and donate and then stand for a few minutes and chat. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Oh, I'm sure you do, but you got a cold day.
That's why it's only 2 hours.
That's a good idea. That is definitely a good idea. But do you think it grows every year? Or do you think it's based on need too?
I think so too. And like I say, you've heard me say this before, but it touches your heart when you see folks that don't have anything extra. You can tell. And they're the ones that give the most.
It's 100%
because they've been there.
Yeah.
And they go, well, I got a little bit extra this year. Let's share it. Those are the ones that really touch your heart.
It is amazing, and I won't say it's a stereotype, but I'm ringing the kettle. I'll be out there, and it's a person that doesn't look like they have a thing that makes sure they dig
drops
deep.
a 50 in.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and then some people pull up in the new car that give you the
Yeah.
old,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't see
I don't
all
have
that.
any change today.
Yeah, I didn't see. It's just it's something interesting about that.
Yeah.
But boy, this time of year, you can tell there is a need because there are
there
so
is.
many events like this going on, and there's so many people pulling. Because even with the Salvation Army Telethon coming up, you look at those numbers and how many people need it this year. It's going to be a
is.
tough Christmas.
It is, and it's cold early too, and that affects people's pocketbooks.
Yep.
And everything going on in the world. I'm glad that we live in an area where people are still invested in taking care of their neighbor.
They want to help.
Yes.
That's why I always read all the different events because people generally, especially this time of year, want to help. And we're so, like I said, we're so far behind on things. What's it like collecting the ballots on Election Day? See how far behind I am? But
Well, it's interesting because the folks that are working at the poll sites, they want to get out of there.
I know I can't blame them.
And by gosh, you better be there when you're supposed to be there. And then it's you have to count or not count, but they have to verify what they're giving you. You have to verify what you're receiving.
Right.
And there's this whole paperwork trail, and then off it goes to Bath to get turned into the Board of Elections, and then once again it's a verification of what you're turning in and what they're receiving, and but our folks have been doing it forever. They have it down to a science.
I'm sure.
So it happens relatively easily and flawlessly.
Well, and that's what's the amazing job that they do at Steuben County Board of Elections, because everything they do is to be transparent and to be forthcoming.
Yeah.
That they really they do a wonderful. I'm not taking anything away from anybody else around the area, but that's the one I pay attention to the most.
For sure.
And even on their website, they're up to date like that. It's actually quite remarkable.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
They do. They do a phenomenal job, and we're more than happy to help them out.
And so there we got. But speaking of Election Day, what did you think of Election Day? We haven't talked since then. So,
I know.
So there's a lot change.
There is. So 25% of the county legislature is going to be new in January.
Wow, that's remarkable.
And I'm excited to work with folks. I'm excited to see what new perspectives bring, and I'm very much looking forward to the new year.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I didn't realize it was 25%. So what do you think the next year will look like with the county? Obviously, we bring up the county a lot on this program when you're on. What do you think next year will look like as we do our Christmas kind of episode here, where you
where I look back on the year?
Look back and look forward.
I think it's going to be a much more collaborative effort. I do. Yeah. I think they're going to partner with us, with all of the elected officials better. I think that folks are looking forward to partnering. So I'm excited. I think that next year is going to be a good year, and I look forward to being able to move forward together in unison. And that's what I expect to see, and I think that's what people are looking for.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more, and I think that's kind of speaks to what happened on Election Day.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. One day I'm going to record all the off-the-air stuff. Everybody always asks us what we're coming back from.
That might not be a great idea.
Well, if I'm ever looking to lose my job, that'll be how I start. But, we talk about the Christmas season. We talk about the amazing Toys for Tots, Coats for Kids. I was really intrigued to learn about this. I was hoping you could tell us about the Family Meal Project.
So it's a really cool program. So as you know, we contract out for our food service in the jail with a company called Trinity, and the food service manager that they have supplied us has bought into the community, and she's from Yates County. She's local, but she's the one that kind of took over the garden program, and she's been training. Like with the fresh food we bring out of the garden, she set up a training program for the inmates on how to make different things and can them. And teach them how to do that. Yeah. So she is all in, and she's been part of the meal project for a couple of years. So she has a distributor that's donating all of the food, and she's putting it together in our kitchen, and the inmates are helping in that process. Wow. So they're giving back to the community.
Yeah.
And then the correction officers on their own time are going to come in and deliver them.
That's wonderful.
to needy folks both in our county and Yates County. And I'm so happy when I see our unions pick up something like this that gives back to the community, and not that they don't do an awesome job, and they do,
of course,
and it's a dangerous job, and all of that being said, I so love it when they become leaders in their community, when they get involved in charities.
Yes.
And that's what this is. So the inmates and Linnea will assemble the meals, and then our correction officers on their own time will grab them and take them to where they got to go. And I think it's December 18th or 19th. I forget the date when they're delivering.
How do they decide who to partner with for the delivery? Just local?
There's a whole system on that.
Okay.
The names are supplied, and
that's great.
Away they go. Yeah.
Well, I love it because we talk about it with SROs too. When you're out in the community in these positive venues and these positive stories.
Yes.
It's because at a time when we see, especially with the mayor's race and things like that, there always seems to be the attacks on law enforcement.
Right.
And the media loves that line, not
national media.
National media. I didn't mean local. I didn't mean local.
Yeah.
So to have these positive stories kind of outweigh that, going back to Toys for Tots, Coats for Kids.
Well, and Shop with the Cops coming up.
The
20th and the 21st. And I can't remember, one's in Irwin and one's in Hornell, and I forget which. But our SROs pick kids from their schools, and then we team up. Like in the Irwin one, we team up with Painted Post and Corning PD and the state police, and in the Hornell one is huge because that's also with Allegheny County.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's like 60 people when we do that one. And again, it's stuff that we've done for, we started doing Shop with a Cop when I was undersheriff, I think is when we started that. And it has grown and grown and grown. And, again, now our deputies association, so we've got the corrections union working with the meals. We've got the deputies working with Shop with the Cop and bankrolling it basically with their money. And it's amazing to me because that's one of our core values is leadership, and that's not just leadership at work. That's leadership in your community, running for town board, running for school board, being that coach, being the person that steps up and says, I'm invested here, I'll do this. Yeah. And when I see our employees doing that, it makes the team stronger.
Well, I know you said it before on the program, but you're members of the community too.
Yeah,
big time. So to take part in this great community outreach, and it even goes back to what we talked about with the garden. I know it's been so long since I talked to you, so I couldn't get a garden update. My favorite.
It's all filled in right now, buddy.
My softball question at the beginning every time. But even something like that, I just think all of these send such a great message to our community because we talk on this program so often about wanting to be about community, and that's kind of stuff that
we do. And I think it's imperative that any level of government stays connected.
Yes.
And if you're not connected with what is going on in your community, there's no way you're going to make decisions that benefit the community.
Right.
And I feel that very strongly that at every level of government needs to be connected in these kind of community projects.
And it's such a win-win. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, you're feeling great.
Yeah.
Like you said, Toys for Tots, you love it.
I do.
I always assume you just did the Shop with a Cop because the name was so perfect. And it was more of the idea you come up with a name first and come up with a plan later.
And that one is too cool because you've got kids that probably wouldn't have much of a Christmas otherwise.
Yeah.
And the whole emphasis is they're not buying for themselves; they're buying for their family members.
Yeah.
And that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, and they've got to feel so good too because like you said, not having much of a Christmas, they're not shopping for their loved ones most likely.
Right. No, because they don't have any money to shop with anything.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's been that long too. Wow, you've been working on a lot of great projects for quite some time.
I've been around a while.
You've been around. That's my nice way of saying that. We better take another short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And in that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. So there's a lot of projects coming up, and I do want to, before the show's over, and we have plenty of time, but I want to look towards the next year and not kind of review the past year. But you had a couple, and that's why I love the newsletter, because I steal my questions from the newsletter. But I love that this youth and government students, they came and visited you. Tell us about kind of that and what that shaped up to look like.
It was this one that was a really good group. So it's twice a year they come in, and they're from all the high schools in the county. Again, we have 12 districts in the county, so sometimes it's a lot of kids, sometimes it's not a lot of kids. But this group particularly had really good questions, and I enjoyed I described what the sheriff's office is and the office of sheriff and all of that, and then start taking questions, and they had really pretty good incisive questions. And I enjoyed it a lot. And then they go for a tour of the jail, but they go to every office and department in the county and learn what they are about. And then they have to develop sample resolutions, and then one of them gets chosen and goes to the ledge for not adoption, but to be debated. And it's a really great program, and there's a lot of folks that have benefited greatly from it. So if you're a junior or a senior and you're interested in government or in a career in government, it's a great program to do, and they get college credit for it.
Right. And I think what was interesting when I did an interview about it in the past, people don't always realize how much the county does.
Right.
Like, or I don't know
how
if
big
does
it is.
Like how big it is, and when it comes to a government entity, that as an entity. So like, I mean, the common person on the street doesn't always know, because it is kind of overwhelming to know every level of government. So it's a really unique opportunity. I wish I would have known about it when I was in high school, but it's a unique opportunity to learn about what is done at the county level. Yeah.
And Bill Caudill's the Youth Bureau Director. He does a great job with it, and really emphasizes on the education part.
I wonder what their bill was, or whatever they were going to try to put through this year.
I don't know. A lot of times it comes out to be something about bail reform.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of them have.
I'll have to reach out and see what it was. I'll just be curious. And you also had visitors from the Steuben County Federated Republican Women.
Oh, they're so nice.
They do a great job.
They are so gracious. They come in and so supportive, and they bring in all of these cookies and baked goods, and at Christmas time they've done it. I think this is the second or third year they've done it. And they're just amazing and so helpful. And so one of our employees always makes sure that she, and you know her, Candace. She makes sure that there's some for every shift, and there's some for each group, and some goes to the jail.
Of course she does.
And she does a very diligent job of making sure that the day folks don't gobble them all up before other ones get a chance to. So it's funny, but it's just the amount of work they must do to do that is amazing.
Yeah, and I would say that they've been doing that quite a few years too.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, it's been a couple of years. Yeah,
because probably since they first started.
Yes, and it's so good for the folks on the team to see the support of the public like that. It's amazing.
Well, and going back to this time of year, I keep saying that, but it's just nice to feel appreciated.
Yeah.
Feel good, you know, and that people appreciate the work that you're doing. And it's always nice to feel appreciated in the form of cookies and cakes.
Right? Yes, it is.
But we mentioned, I think every time we have to mention this, corrections officers. How's everything going there? Any updates?
They're still going, and they're still working hard and working a ton of overtime. Unfortunately, we're still down. Right now, the county and that union are in negotiations, and I'm extremely hopeful that the result of that is going to yield a contract which will make them able to attract more folks, without giving anything away, because they can't. Right. I'm very, very hopeful that next year this time we should be in much better shape staffing wise.
Well, that's great. And it's been kind of a roller coaster year for that, hasn't it?
It is.
When you look back at it.
Yeah.
It's been, because you at one point were completely staffed.
We were, with folks that had left the state.
Yeah.
And were told they could never, ever be. And then the state said, "Oh, we're just kidding."
Gotcha.
Come on, Jack.
We need you.
We
Please,
still love you.
please.
Yeah.
but you know, and this has been a struggle since the TV and even going back to radio, finding people that are willing to take on that job, but any really job in the sheriff's office. Right?
Well, it's through COVID, we saw a change in people, and I think everyone saw it where folks went, you know what, I'm not going to do a job I don't love anymore.
Right.
Life's too short.
Yeah.
And
That's a great point.
Since that time, obviously around that time was some of our attacks on law enforcement by our state government that also turned people from, I think, I don't think I will.
yeah, right.
And but I think that's starting to come back around. Our last deputy's exam, we had almost 50, I believe, signed up, which is we were getting a dozen or 20.
Yeah, right.
So we're seeing an increase in people taking the test. I'm very hopeful that that trend will continue. And, again, if you look at some of the contracts that Corning and Elmira and other folks have had, the wages are up there.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the county. The county did a very good contract with the deputies this last time. So the wages are in the neighborhood of these other folks. And I think you're going to see more people getting back into law enforcement.
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting when we had Sheriff Schramm on probably a month ago, Chemung County, and I know we've joked about it in the past, but it's almost like the NFL draft with.
It really is.
I'm not even exaggerating that much.
You're fighting. Well, if you get this 50 kids took it. After the PT test, there was 11 that passed.
Okay.
So now you've got, Corning's down a couple, Bath down one, Chemung County's down, we're down. Everybody's fighting for those same 10 kids.
Yeah.
And then by the time they go through their background investigations, there's another third or so that aren't going to be successfully
right.
Aren't going to be successful in that endeavor.
Right.
So you end up everybody's fighting for the same 5 or 7 people again.
Well, and that's why, even though you're in need of people, it's not like you're lowering your standards.
No,
I mean, that's
no,
important
we are
to
not.
know.
We are not.
Yeah.
No. And I would rather have a vacancy than hire the wrong person. But the state has put in several safeguards for that. Everybody that's new has to go through a psychological now. And if they don't pass it, they come off the list. That's one of the bills that the governor just signed last week.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's more restrictive, but at the same time, I think that's a good thing.
I do too.
Yep.
I mean, it's you want to be at a certain standard.
Yes, it protects the quality.
I mean, it goes back to what they've been saying, at the national level with the military. We've talked about with Hegseth and some of the things that he said that it's, we've got to have a standard or.
Right. What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. I know there's a lot of other projects coming up. How about this? And I heard a little bit about it yesterday, the camera project.
Yes. So if you look at most counties in the state, especially counties that have interstates going through them, they'll have what's called a fixed license plate reader camera. And what that does is gathers data of who's on our highways.
Right.
It takes pictures of plates, and it's then stored. We have an agreement with the Monroe Crime Analysis Center where they can mine that data once it's in. And also, we're doing some tilt pan zoom cameras in areas that are demonstrated as high crash areas.
Oh, okay.
And areas that flood.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Frequently.
You don't think of that side of it, yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that we're working with the emergency management office and meet the public safety needs in the criminal side. Right. And it's 71 fixed LPRs and/or cameras. That's the first time I had it.
It's all right. It's fun.
It's all good.
Good enough for this one. People are used to
it. And so there's 71 of them, and the goal is that we have 3 interstates that go through Steuben County, 99, 390, and 86. The goal is that we can have information on anyone traveling those interstates, any vehicle, and that at the exits we also have information on folks that enter our county from the interstates.
Oh, interesting.
And again, the high crash areas and the flood areas, so that if we get a heavy rainstorm, the emergency management director can look on an app and tilt, pan, zoom a camera and look at Campbell, Canisteo, wherever our issues are, and see where it is without having to send somebody out there.
That is so fascinating. Think of how helpful that would be.
Direct resources in real time. And that's the goal. Now, I can tell you that Livingston to the north of us is in the same project. Monroe County already has it. Broome County already has it. And with a county as large as ours, it would seem irresponsible to not have that kind of ability and protection. So
it also has to be a struggle because there's so many places you could put these cameras.
Yes.
And the cameras aren't free.
No. It's
how do you pick and choose? It is based on the, like you said, high crash area flooding, but just
and the interstate. And so Lieutenant Logston sat down with Tim Marshall, emergency management, and Chris Brewer, who's the deputy manager, and they looked at all of the data and they decided the points and assigned them. So, but it's not cheap. It's $250,000 per year for 5 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it's a lot, but if it saves one, and Wendy Loza said it yesterday, the best, if it saves one life,
right?
Well, that's worth it.
Yeah.
And we've seen, but with the recent bank robbery in Addison, the New Rider homicide, how important this data is in not only arrest but also prosecution.
Sure.
So I think it's the future. I really do. And I think that, anybody that's worried about Big Brother's watching them, they're already watching.
Yeah, I got bad news. Do you have a cell phone?
Yeah. Your location is updated every 3 seconds in your cell phone.
Yeah. So those days are long gone.
Yeah.
But it's also, when you think about all the Amber Alerts and all the kidnapping and stuff that you hear about, it's just gonna every minute that you can save in a scenario like that it can be, like you said, it can be the difference between life or death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, plenty more to talk about. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. We are back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live, of course, from the Hasselson studio. In that studio, Sheriff Jim Allard. Still a lot to catch up on. We don't have a lot of time to get there. I got to ask this because people will be upset if I don't. Update on appeal? Nothing new?
Nothing new.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yep.
I thought you would have brought it up by now.
Yeah. When it's done, I'll bring it up.
Okay, good. All right. Just had to bring that up quick. And how about and I don't know I can never remember the right word to bring it up, but the camp that you're working on so hard.
Yes, the Wellness Center.
Wellness Center,
yep.
Thank you. I can never think of what it. Tell us, I know people have been following that closely. How's that process going?
It's going really good. We're still getting the big donors done and moving forward. Actually, it's funny you bring that up because right now is the third day of we got the Division of Criminal Justice Services is doing a statewide class at our office this week on critical incident stress debriefing, and police officers from all over the state are in Bath. If you'll see an influx of outside cars, that's why they're in Bath training. The state likes to use our location because it is pretty central, and we have some folks in it too. But it's one component of what we're focusing on is once someone's gone through a horrific, traumatic situation, how do we minimize the damage to that officer, and how do we make sure that we rehabilitate them moving forward? And that's going on this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, at our office. Yeah. So. But the camp is going well. We still plan to have our first class in June, which will be the FBI Officer Resiliency, which was developed by the Air Force. Then the FBI adopted it, and we're going to start with that. It's a 3-day training for folks that are not yet in crisis, but that are struggling, and to help them find the ability and the skills to manage without dropping off that cliff. I know. Watch out, wise guy. Yeah, we'll go full Three Stooges here.
We just need one more. But that, I think people have been really attracted to this idea because it almost seems to us that how has it not been done before? Right?
Well, so you got to understand the culture. The culture in policing has always been toughen up. Yeah. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And it's for forever. It's been, you go out with your buddies and have a couple of pops and everything will be better. Well, nothing's better.
No.
And it's a bit touchy-feely for
okay.
like the guys that I started with.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we've grown a lot as a culture. We've grown in the way that we respond to things, and it works. So I can tell you that I've seen it work.
Yeah.
And it's saved careers, and it's probably saved lives.
I'm sure.
And so I'm all in. Anything that's going to take somebody who's on the bubble and get them back on a path where they can be successful, I'm all about it.
Why wouldn't you?
Because it's just fiscally responsible to do so.
And like you said, the wellness camp itself is, if it helps a couple people, it helps one person. I know
Right.
everybody always says that.
Yeah.
But you have that camp there.
Right. It's
So,
paid for.
I know.
It's there.
And then there's a reason why other law enforcement agencies have saddled up to this and want to be a part of it.
Yes.
Because everybody sees
Yeah.
it as an opportunity that's been coming for a long
And
time.
it's not just law enforcement either. It's all first responders.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
right.
because there's so much bleed over now, pun intended,
Yeah.
with EMS and fire.
Right.
They see the same things. They go through the same things, and not only that, but they may not be prepared. Especially a lot of our volunteers, it may be the first time they've seen something
That's a great point.
that traumatic, and to ignore that and not give them the support they need, again, I feel is irresponsible.
Right. And so you said that June is your first class, and you're still fundraising, but it will get to the point where it'll be individuals can fundraise.
Yes.
Right now, it's just kind of the big ticket
Yes.
donors to get
Yes.
everything up and running.
Yes,
Yeah. Well, you have
Yep.
to keep us updated.
I absolutely will.
All right. Before we go, let's do a little look back and look forward. So what do you think when you look back on the year? What do you think?
I think it was a very successful year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do. We were able to add a couple deputy positions. We were able to reinforce what we do. And again, I'm on the bandwagon about the RMS, but that's the first time in this county
Yeah.
that it's happened.
Yeah.
Almost every other county has been there for 10, 15, 20 years. We're finally catching up.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to make it sound like we're got straw hats on and
Right.
sitting in the background, but there's just been so many things in this since I've been sheriff that we have tried to make sure that we're catching up to best practice with.
Sure.
And that's another one. The big ticket item next year, we're ready to be accredited on the road. That's never happened before with the patrol division. We're at that point now where we're ready to be accredited. We're in the queue to be assessed, and that'll be another first time ever, not only for our agency, but will be the only accredited agency in the county. There's about 35 counties that are fully accredited, and we'll be one of them.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about that. And again, the hard work of the lieutenants and the undersheriff and the sergeants and everybody involved that's on the committees. And that's been my goal since I've been sheriff, is to get there. And this coming year will be the year that we get there.
That's amazing. So that much work goes
It
behind.
is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Every policy has to be redone. Every policy has to be in accordance with the state standard. Everybody has to be trained on every policy. It's a lot, and we had to do a lot of physical change to our evidence room.
Okay.
Certain things have to be double and triple level checked and secured. And so we had to make a lot of changes, and it took a lot of work from a whole lot of people to get there. But
I'm sure.
I'm confident now that we're there. And
When do you find out? Is it
so we'll get notice that assessors are coming, and then
how long is the notice?
Usually it's about a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they'll come and they'll do their thing, and they'll let us know. Typically, they come and do a mock assessment and say, "Hey, tune up these three,"
Oh, that's nice.
and then we'll come back and do the real one, and then they come back, and then it's good for 5 years. Yeah.
Any other goals I should say for next year?
That's the big
That's the
one.
big
The other one is to continue to meet the needs of our constituents on the road with patrol. We just did yesterday, and this one keeps surfacing, animal abuse. And we just did a search warrant yesterday. I haven't done the press release on it yet, but we arrested, I think, 4 people and seized 10 dogs and 4 cats. And there's a crisis in this county with a place to take those animals because everybody's full.
Issue. Yeah.
And B, all of our folks are trained in it. But if you look at the municipalities, some are, some aren't.
Mm-hmm.
State police, some are, some aren't. And we have a contract as the county with the SPCA to house these animals, but a lot of the municipalities don't.
Right.
So they end up getting billed.
Right.
And, that I think that needs to be worked out in the next 12 months.
Well, there you go. That's a lofty couple goals.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, and we'll come up with more.
Well, come on. I know on the drive into work, you'll be thinking, why did I mention that?
Yeah. Oh, sheesh.
That went quick. Well, thanks for giving us so much time this morning. Merry Christmas.
Well, Merry Christmas to you, Frank. And again, I beat this drum, but thank you for doing this show.
Oh, thank you.
And with you and I tell Brian O'Neill and Hornell the same thing. You are it for local news. Mm-hmm. You really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And without these shows, people don't get a glimpse behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So Merry Christmas. Say hi to everybody for me.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right.
Thank
Join
you.
us tomorrow. Joe Sempolinski will be our guest. This has been, Frankly Speaking, WYDC TV, Big Fox.